Before the red pill and radical feminism, there was a Lyndon Baines Johnson and a concerted effort to tear apart households, to break apart the nuclear family, more specifically within the quote unquote black community, to have black women reliant upon the government and to see a man as their adversary as opposed to their leader. Now, some would say that this goes back as far as Adam and Eve, right? There will be this sort of discord between man and woman. There will be enmity between the man and the woman, the husband and the wife. And whether or not you believe that, it is, I think, more prevalent today and more present today than it ever has been. I mean, you just take one visit to X and you will see women defending other women who may even be guilty as hell, obviously guilty, due to their own projection of their own situation. You know, men are terrible, all men are bad, blah, blah, blah. And then men on the other side with the exact same thing. Right? I'm talking about in situations where the person is dead ass wrong. Meg the Stallion, straight up lying, right? The Haley Bailey situation. No evidence has been presented, but yet they'll automatically jump on the bandwagon of look at men, they're terrible. Look what they did to us. No sort of accountability. Then you have men on the other side, see somebody dead ass wrong. Oh, well, women. So that being said, I want to get into a video from a time yonder, from the 1980s, where men and women were essentially being asked this very same question, which is, how do you view one another? How do you see the opposite sex? And what I saw in the first few seconds actually shocked me. I did not expect to see that these very same conversations were being had, these very same sentiments were being felt this early on. And I'm somebody who stands for us having healthy, stable relationships. I happen to believe in the nuclear family. I happen to believe in, the traditional family per se. If that offends you, then so be it. Be offended, be triggered. But I believe in a father, a mother, a husband and a wife coming together to raise children within that household. I believe in a man and a woman coming together. I believe in a man being a true leader, which means that you're leading by example. You're not being trifling as hell. I believe in that. So that being said, let's get into this video here.
My opinion of women of the 80s is that they have lost something as far as their femininity. I'm proud of being black. Can't be no more than what I am. And I want my woman to be the same way. I feel more comfortable. Right now I'm not comfortable because I don't have a woman black enough for me.
I think the ladies of the 70s were more independent, but the ladies of the 80s will be more dependent on men. Mostly because they've been outside in the world and that they've seen how hard it is out there.
You see a lot more women in graduate.
This is, oh my goodness, this is truly revealing. And I'm so glad we have a variety of opinions. So the first man, he's telling us straight up, he believes that there's something lost. And the second one is what we call the pander bear, right? He's pandering. Oh man, I can't get no woman blacker than a one. Oh man, I'm a lonely, miserable man. It's like a lot of the music back in the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s, when they were begging, please, baby, please. Every song was begging, I'm on my knees, begging you, please. They were always begging. Just begging and begging. So yeah, we had pander bears back then. And then the next one is saying, well, women are seeing, how hard it is to try to go out there and to be a man. And so they're going to come back. Well, we're still having that very same conversation now. And it's gotten significantly worse. Significantly worse. And I'm not saying that, look, let this be known for the record. I have never stated that it is not for a woman to do X, Y, and Z, or she cannot do X, Y, and Z. I'm not one of them. I just so happen to say, or happen to believe, that women, majoritively, are built in a certain way, mentally, emotionally, physically, that is more, how do I put this? And I'm not trying to sugarcoat this either. But I'm also not trying to, you know what I mean? Now, I want to state this for the record. I'm not one of these dudes who believes that women cannot do X, Y, or Z, right? It's evident that there are multitudes of things women can indeed do. What I'm saying is a culture that pushes for women to be everything and want everything and need everything in order to be content with themselves. You need to be a boss girl and a mother at the same time, and you need to be and you need to have and you need to also and to chase the bag, but you also need the entrepreneur, but also job, but also all of that nonsense that y'all been pushed towards is never going to create contentment and satisfaction. Most women are going to find contentment in being a mother and a wife in the same way a man will find it in being a father and a husband. These are the facts. Now, I know there's people who are outliers and people who are, going to be forever dogs, or those are going to be forever 304s or whatever it is. I completely understand that. There are those who will not be content in the confines of family, but the nuclear family is what has allowed for us to be where we are as civilization. Do I know why? Absolutely not. I wasn't there with God when this entire thing was formed. Well, maybe I was, but obviously not as conscious, right? I just don't know the logistics. I just know that it works. I know that law, the natural law, says that it works. So when we step outside of those confines, outside of those spaces, and we go for the externalized narrative, which more times than not, it's not for our greatest good. It is for the greatest good of the system itself, whatever the system is trying to produce up out of us, right? Oh, more women working, more women single, more women. Okay, yeah, that's going to create for greater consumption, and greater consumption. Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds good to a system that wants to continue to sell you shit that you don't need, right? Greater insecurity. We can continue to sell you more of those, reinvented faces, more of those shots in your face, and more makeup and more, clothing and this and that and fake bodies. We can sell you that. And man, we can continue to sell you on this image. This is a man. A man, aspires towards 4 Bugattis and and all the jewelry and all this sort of nonsense, as opposed to what actually matters most, which is first and foremost, who are you as an individual? The characteristics that you inhabit. Are you a person or a man of integrity, a man of honor, a man of dignity, a man who's got some pride about himself, not who's proud, not who's arrogant, because that's nothing more than fear in disguise? Are you a man who is able to lead by example? Talk about submission. You want submission, be somebody worth submitting to. That's facts. That's not just a feminist rhetoric. I believe that you should show up as that man in your own life. In your own life. And in a woman who is able to do so, who has not been fully taken over by this feminist propaganda, can also be able to follow and is willing to follow. If you're worth leading, I promise you, people are going to be willing to follow. And it doesn't make you any less than because you are. It means that you fall under something that is, again, moving towards the greater good. Yours as well as obviously the whole. For a man, it's like he's not just moving for his good, he's moving for the good of his entire household. That's something you can follow because you know that your good is always going to be placed as priority, as the children's good, as his own good. So let us continue.
Schools, you see a lot more women in executive positions, a lot more women owning their own offices and businesses.
Did y'all hear that? This is the 1980s, because we're still having this conversation of wage inequality, this, that, and third. A lot of these are myths, and they've been busted time and time again, right? Women already were stepping into these roles. I mean, you go as early as the 1940s, 1950, post-World War.
A lot more women owning their own offices and businesses. And I think men are becoming scared of that.
The opportunities for the black man, like I say, are not equal to the white man. They are more on the level of being under the black woman.
They're only concerned with themselves. They have no religious or no convictions whatsoever, and sex is usually their first priority.
How I feel about the women here in the 80s, that they are beautiful, fantastic, and most of them have the jobs. So stick with them.
The male mentality.
That brother right there is looking for a chick. He's a dude who be hugging on Bay like this from the back while she's paying. I'm sure y'all seen that meme. And then, hey, look, there's no shame in that, Sometimes you start off broke, but hopefully as a man, you are building your way up in order to take care of your family. And, again, if that's what you want, if you don't want that and you want to be a stay-at-home dad or whatever the hell, that's between you and the donkey you rode in on. Good luck. Good luck. But I wanted to get back to this one. I was curious about this one right here.
The opportunities for the black man, like I say, are not equal to the white man.
I have to speak to this. We got to create our own opportunities as just human beings. This is a free market, as free a market as we can have, right? The system rewards those who go out and take the risk and create something. So, if you're waiting to get a job from somebody, if you're waiting for somebody to put you in position, somebody to co-sign you. I got people hit me up. They want to be put on. You got to build brick by brick. I got to see that you're even, you're really giving over to this. I show up every single day. And I've been doing so for a very long time. People show up because I show up. It didn't just happen. And even if it did, I'll probably lose it as fast as it came. So I'm glad that I have the come up that I have. But you got to create your own opportunity in this world. Nobody's just going to hand it to you. You got to find your space. You got to find what you're best at, find your purpose. Don't blame the white man. And if you're waiting on a white man, I don't know which white man is going to help. I don't know which one. They're busy with their own lives.
More on the level of...
I feel about the women here in the 80s that they are beautiful, fantastic, and most of them have the jobs. So stick with them.
The male mentality is a little shaky, like weak. But I don't blame the men fully because there are a lot of dense women out here also.
Ooh, she said it all right there. And by the way, do you guys notice the vernacular used, the clothing? Like, we still weren't fully given over to that ghetto mentality, the ratchetness. Like, it was seeping in, and the destruction had already, the wheels were already turning. It was already ready. And some will say, well, that was Reagan. No, that was Lyndon Baines Johnson in The Great Society. That primed everything, in essence. But yeah, there was still a sort of admiration for some level of intellect. It was there. And I see a lot of ladies with, the natural hair.
I think they're more independent now. They look more toward a single life, not really a husband and wife relationship as they used to in the past.
I think it's about time for
Natural
everybody
hair.
to get their
Again.
act together.
Yep.
I think that the women depend on the men depend on the women, and if we all work together as a unit,
Yes.
then we can get something done. So
That's my type of sister right there. That's her. That's my type of sister. And I don't say sister just because she is a melanated individual. I say it because we share, well, at least those values. We need each other. And I'm not saying needy as far as, oh, you can't survive, but let's be real, right? Ladies, we all know why some folks just settle for a dog or a few cats in place of what, right? That nurturing, caring tendency is there for a reason. We're just saying. Fellas, we know why you're playing video games all day. Mimicking the things that you want to actually be doing out there. Building, creating, hunting, gathering.
calling all men, be a man and do what you're supposed to do spiritually, financially, and mentally. And for the women, we got to stick with the men, encourage them in every area.
Yeah.
And I think that if we do this, you'll find that the children will grow up stronger with a lot more love in their lives and not looking so much for the things of the street.
Oh, let's run that back. You deserve a whole entire segment by yourself. Let's run that back.
It's about time for everybody to get their act together. I think that the women depend on the men depend on the women, and if we all work together as a unit, then we can get something done. So I'm calling all men, be a man and do what you're supposed to do spiritually, financially, and mentally. And for the women, we got to stick with the men, encourage them in every area. And I think that if we do this, you'll find that the children will grow up stronger with a lot more love in their lives and not looking so much for the things of the street.
So yeah, I'm going to encourage folks listening to this one right here. Drop a comment, share your story, how many years you've been married, the beautiful relationship. Because I know a lot of y'all got amazing relationships, and it could be very encouraging, especially for the younger generation who just seems to be so jaded when it comes to, the quote unquote modern relationship, that you can truly make it work, but, you have to be willing to work. And I'm not saying to try to change the other person, but to work on ourselves, right? To become more patient, more understanding, You know, we have to be willing to build a relationship. One of the best quotes I heard, I guess, or statements was that, you know, it's like nowadays you want to find your soulmate. And I'm guilty as anybody of pushing this message in the past, but it's like find your soulmate as opposed to, you know, build a soulmate relationship. Like that, you build it over time. You build it through experiences. You refine it over time. And there's nothing like that. And in this fickle generation, and a generation that is so, overcome with instant gratification. Oh, I want the next and the next and the next. That discards and throws people away and things, and like the lack of patience and things of that nature. Just, you know, I would love for some of y'all just to share y'all stories and to encourage everybody else. I think it can encourage even, you know, some of the older folks, etc. Maybe been through a divorce or two, whatever their situation may be. But there is more than hope out there, and honestly, it's in our hands. It truly is. You know, some of the content I may show up here, it may seem as if it's very dark or negative, but I believe that there's light in every single one of these situations. And the light is what we bring to it, right? When we speak to these things in an informed way. So that being said, I appreciate y'all. Till the next time. Peace. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there, or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there, or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time, peace.
I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking. A 3-6-5, that's a full rotation. I see you looking up, you know them constellations. Constantly gazing like house of praises, you get to praising.